Hi everybody! I got back from the Author Nation conference in Las Vegas last week, and as you can see, I still haven't unpacked. It was my first time to Las Vegas and the first time to this conference, Author Nation. The conference is actually held there every year, but I never attended before. But this year I was invited to speak on the Cozy Mystery panel. This biggest conference for independent authors in the world. There were about I think 1,500 attendees. It was a huge conference, and a lot of the sessions were held in these vast ballrooms. It can be a bit daunting, you know, if you arrive and you don't know many people and you're walking in and there's just like a huge room that you've got to sort of navigate around and you just don't know anybody. And but it's great because it's really nice to, you know, meet other authors in person and just to have that human contact. You can make great friendships online, but it is very different when you're meeting someone face to face. And I love learning, so it's a fantastic kind of you know, there are lots of different talks and workshops and presentations from all different people who are experts in different parts of the industry, and they're all things geared around authors. So, you know, it's things like craft, obviously, which is like, you know, how to write better stories, how to create characters, how to you know, write setting and pacing and all the things that, you know, we have to learn or to improve to write a better story, but also all the other aspects of being an author in the modern world, like, you know, like understandings like branding and cover design and book marketing, which is unfortunately, I think most of us hate doing that part of the job because it's just so alien to us. I mean, you know, we write the story and then you feel like embarrassed to be pushy and to be saying, oh, you know, this is my book. So it's really, we have to overcome that and to learn to because otherwise nobody would know about your book if you don't talk about it. So it's learning those kind of skills, you know, to learn how to promote your book. And all the sort of things that, you know, as a modern author you have to know, like social media and all the different platforms and then all the tech tools now. So it was really diverse kind of range of topics and for all the different levels. So whether you're a newbie author who's just writing your first book, you know, or whether you're someone more like me who's you know, written and published multiple books and series and you've been doing it for several years now as a full-time author, then it's, you know, it's a slightly different kind of perspective, but you're still but you know, there are always new things to learn, of course. So the conference itself was fantastic, and I'm really pleased I went, and I really enjoyed it. I think the hardest thing, aside, as I said, from the daunting one, is just as writers we're all like terrible introverts, most of us. I mean, there are a few extrovert authors, but I think they're far and few between because it's the nature of the job, really. I mean, how else are you going to get a book written? You really have to spend most of your working life, you know, by yourself, talking to imaginary people in your head, mostly in front of a computer, and you've got to do this for hours and hours and hours every day, for days and then weeks and then months, in order to write a novel. So by the very nature of that, you sort of have to be an introvert and you sort of have to enjoy being on your own. And so I think it's quite hard for most of us to leave our writing caves and like venture out, you know. And so it's not that you don't like other people. I mean, I actually really love, I'm very chatty and sociable, and I love meeting and talking to people. But then afterwards, I'm absolutely exhausted. So it's quite hard if you're an introvert because, you know, it's very draining and you need long periods of time on your own to recover from that. An Ironman is always like, you know, the top kind of endurance test. You know, then you do like running and then swimming and then cycling or something, one after the other. And I sort of felt like it was like, you know, a networking Ironman, like a socializing Ironman, because, you know, you every single day you know, it started at like, you'd be down there around 8 and then it would be just a whole day of talks and meeting other authors and chatting, and then in the evenings you would also have more social events, you know, and you'd be out having dinner or, you know, meeting other authors. There were events that the conference had put on for us. So again, it was lovely to have the chance, but also if you're not used to socializing, or if you're not you know, it's not part of your day-to-day thing, it's like a suddenly, you know, you've got to do this, and it's really intensive, and it runs for like 5 days, so it's quite a full-on experience. But still, overall, it was wonderful. And on the last day, they had a great event. So the Author Nation is the first part, which is just for authors. And then on the very last day, they have an event called Reader Nation. Basically, authors set up these stalls, and then they have books, and they'll sign books for their fans, and they'll also sell books. And it's open to all readers. So there were loads of readers coming to this event, and just, you can check out all the different genres. They have all the authors done by genre, and it was a great event, a great place to find new authors to try and new books to read. I didn't take part in it this year because it was just a lot for me coming from Australia, to lug all the stuff as well. And to be honest with you, I haven't ever really done a book signing like that. I've done one book signing in my life, which was the one in Paris earlier this year. And that was organized for me by my French publisher. So I didn't really have to get involved in any of the sort of background stuff. I just had to turn up on the day. Whereas this would be something that I would have to organize myself, especially because the conference was quite new to me as well. And I hadn't been to Las Vegas, and I was, coming from Perth. It's a 30-hour journey door to door. So it's a really, really big trip for me. So I might do it in the future. I mean, it looks quite scary, but it looks like something, like I said, an experience, like a challenge that I would like to try. I don't know, I guess it depends on whether you've got many readers in the Vegas area who might be able to come, and my readers are interested in me doing a book signing in the US. That would be one place I could do it when I come for the conference. So I might just see what interest there is. But yeah, I thought, for me this year, it was just really a chance to go and attend the conference. And the other thing was, of course, is I was invited to speak on the Cozy Mystery panel. And so that was taking up my head already. Maybe it's just me, but I get very nervous about things because I guess because I'm a perfectionist and I'm an overachiever. And so I always want everything to be perfect and nothing to go wrong. And then you're terrified. You think of all the things that could go wrong. And I suppose because it was just unfamiliar, I never done a panel before. I have done lots of public speaking, and funnily enough, I'm not that worried about public speaking. So I'm quite happy to stand up and give a talk or a presentation and do a workshop. And I used to do some teaching before I started writing. And so I have quite a lot of experience standing up in front of random strangers and giving a talk. But I don't find that so scary because it's sort of it's all under your control. You've got 1 hour as you prepare your talk and you've got your slides and you make sure you practice it. Whereas I think with the panel, I was really, really worried that because there were four authors on the panel, I was paranoid that I was going to start rambling and going on too long and then cutting into the time of other authors, or just, I didn't want to be that person, that was just talking on and on. And so because of that, how when you're worried about something, you just overcompensate. I'm embarrassed that I totally messed up my intro. So in the beginning, when you start, you're supposed to go down the row and each of us were supposed to introduce ourselves. And I prepared this little spiel, who I was I recited it in my room over and over and over. And then I got to the actual panel and I started doing it. And as I was doing it, I had this little voice in my head started going, "You're rambling, are you going on too long?" Or, something. It was I guess it's an intrusive voice. And the minute that voice started, I lost my train of thought, and I just went, and then, went on to the next author, and he spoke so well and so confidently. And so I thought, oh no, that was terrible. I mean, the audience were lovely, and afterwards the other authors were really sweet, and they all said to me it wasn't that bad. And, maybe it's to you, the mistake seems enormous. And overall, I think the audience were really, really happy with it. I mean, I heard that there was loads of positive feedback afterwards, and the audience loved the sessions. So either I could just decide I'm never going to do a panel again, and that way I avoid that situation. Or I could decide that I'm going to try and do more panels now to try and, overcome this whole fear thing. So I don't know, what would you do? Leave me a comment and tell me what you think. But it was still a great experience, and, it was a huge honor to be a speaker. And we got these, I'm going to show you, we've got these really cool lanyards. So this was mine, and, you wore this around your neck every day. And so you can see it's got my name. They had this really clever idea where they gave you, this is your main badge, and then they had all these stickers that you could put on. And so they're depending on where you were from, they had the Midwest region, or in my case, I'm international, or they also had things based on genre. So they also had little ones to show which stage of the journey you're at. So they had a really sweet one that was pre-published explorer, which is for someone who hasn't quite published their first book yet. And that way it's easy to recognize other new authors, which I thought was a great idea. So the conference itself was fantastic. As for Las Vegas itself, to be perfectly honest, I just, it was very, very overwhelming. It was, I'd heard obviously so much about it. I'd never been in a place where you walk in and the hotel lobby is just this one giant casino with, wall-to-wall slot machines or whatever they're called. Just flashing lights everywhere. And it was really, really overwhelming when you arrived. There was no natural light anywhere. There were no windows. And there was a lot of cigarette smoke because everyone's allowed to smoke indoors. Quite unpleasant, to be honest. Oh, and the other thing I really struggled with was the lack of tea. which I guess is, just not an American thing. But I need my cup of tea in the mornings, and I need several cups through the day. To get a cup of tea, you'd have to go downstairs. Like, it took forever to get downstairs and then walk, to find a place to buy tea. And then even if you got a cup of hot water, by the time you put the tea bag in and brought it back to your room, it was lukewarm by then. I don't know why they don't have a kettle in the room. It's like really, really odd. It would just be really nice if you could just boil hot water yourself, Having said all that, it was still really interesting to see Vegas and just to see, the famous place that everyone talks about. And thank you so much to all of you who'd send me messages and emails and comments as well, and just with advice on what to take and what to do. I did follow your advice. I took loads of cardigans, so like to layer on, because the AC was freezing in some of the hotel bits. Going to the US, the last time I went was in 2017 when I went to a writers conference in Florida, and that was an even worse journey, because from Perth, the east coast of America is about as far as you can go. It took me, I think, 42 hours to get there, door to door. So this time Las Vegas wasn't as bad, but the jet lag is still terrible. And I did everything like that everyone says. Like I took the melatonin. I got out as soon as I arrived and tried to get some sunshine on my skin. They say that if you arrive somewhere, try and get outside into natural light, and also get some exercise. So, but every single night, invariably, it was like a clockwork. At 2:30 a.m. or 3 a.m., I would wake up and be wide awake, and then no matter what I did, I just couldn't go back to sleep. I was getting through the whole conference on about 3 or 4 hours sleep a day, which was just, by the end of it, I was really on my knees, because I'm one of those people that needs about 8 hours sleep a day to really function properly. I think I spent the whole week just going on adrenaline, because it was all new place and very exciting, and I was quite nervous about various things. So that kept me going. And I did follow your advice. So I got out and I walked along the Strip. It was very, very packed schedule, so we didn't have that much spare time. But I did try and go into a couple of the hotels and look at their lobbies. And in particular, I went to the Bellagio, and I went to see the flower gardens, the conservatory area. That was on my list, and that was beautiful. They had a lovely display there, absolutely mobbed, of course, with people. But it was really nice just to have a look. And I did also look in Caesar's Palace a bit, and just walking along the Strip. It's definitely a place with lots of energy and lots of interesting characters on the streets, and yes, just very kind of, it's a little bit like a fever dream, like, I have to admit, it's not somewhere I would choose to go for a holiday or for any other reason, really, but other than for the fact that the conference is there, it's not really my cup of tea. Literally in this case. So that was my experience of the Author Nation conference in Las Vegas, and I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me. And yes, I better get back to unpacking. And don't forget to sign up to my newsletter if you want more chatty stories and photos like this in your inbox, as well as news about my books. Until next time, bye!